Luis Suarez, a name associated with some of the biggest and greatest accomplishments of both team and individual feats in football history, a name that serves as a representation of an amazing legacy to an entire nation and two entirely different clubs of equal caliber in different countries.
Right now, the best striker in the world, it has to be Luis Suarez.
I'm always happy when I see him play because I love the player. I love his quality, I love his commitment, I love his ambition.
But it's also a name associated with some of the most vile, gruesome, and most disgusting in football history.
Moments ago, major incident in the World Cup. This player appeared to bite another player.
Football's world governing body FIFA has begun disciplinary proceedings against the Uruguay striker Luis Suarez after he appeared to bite an Italian player during a World Cup match last night.
This, by the way, is not the first time this player is accused of doing something like this. This is blowing up on social media right now.
It's a very unusual, aggressive act.
This is the third alleged incident of this.
They mustn't use violence against another player.
This is going to have huge repercussions.
While for some, the name Luis Suarez represents a hero who could do anything to protect, elevate, and preserve the status of whichever team he was a part of.
He has everything. He's in your face. He can score goals, he can volley it, he can score headers, he can score free kick.
For some, he's a cold-blooded cheater whose actions have no place in football.
Patrice Evra and going around biting, it's just no place in the game whatsoever. It takes away of him as a player.
Much of the bad press he received often centered around three separate incidents of the same occurrence. Tension is high, Suarez starts to get frustrated, and then it was something that you'd never really see happen on a football pitch, and to some, it was unbelievable. How could someone decide to sink his teeth into the flesh of his opponent?
It was just the two of us, he bumped into me, and that's how my eye got like this.
What is wrong with this person? This is a flawed person.
That kind of behaviour is unacceptable.
My own feeling is that he needs some help. He needs, let's say, medical help, psychiatric help. I think this is a human being, first of all, and he has got a problem that needs dealing with.
First in the Eredivisie, then the Premier League, before the World Cup. With every bite, he kept taking it up a notch, right to the point where it was the only thing people, especially casuals, knew him for.
You want a nickname? You don't want the nickname The Cannibal.
I think the player is amazing. He does everything to win. But when the situation is like this, and you are losing, and comes the nature of the player, the wild nature of the player, or the cultural nature of the player.
The very thing that made Luis Suarez one of the most ferocious and most dangerous strikers in the world is the very thing that led to this. It was November 2010. During a match between Ajax and PSV, Luis Suarez would attack his first victim, Otman Bakkal. As you can see from this clip, you could see Luis Suarez in a fit of rage while arguing about something, plunging his teeth into the shoulder of the PSV player right in front of the referee. Surprisingly, this shocking incident was missed by the on-pitch officials, which meant he suffered no punishment in the moment, but it didn't go beyond the notice of the Dutch FA, who proceeded to slap him with a 7-match ban. Dubbed by the media as the Cannibal of Amsterdam, Suarez made his move to Premier League side Liverpool shortly after. This incident came as a huge shock to many because it's not often you see something like this happen on a football pitch. Little did they know, this was just the first of more to come. In 2013, this time while playing for Liverpool, the Uruguayan would attack his next prey, Chelsea defender Branislav Ivanovic. During a Premier League match between Liverpool and Chelsea at Anfield, Luis Suarez was caught once again sinking his teeth, this time into the arm of Chelsea's Branislav Ivanovic. This incident once again sent shockwaves around the football world.
And going around biting, it's just no place in the game whatsoever. It takes away of him as a player. I mean, are you kidding me? What is wrong with this person? This is a flawed person. I mean, I'm just trying to figure out, what this guy's IQ is, because that's not normal.
It was an off-the-ball incident that didn't attract any punishment on the pitch as the officials didn't see it, but the English FA, upon reviewing the footage, deemed it worthy of a 10-match ban.
Football's world governing body FIFA has begun disciplinary proceedings against the Uruguay striker Luis Suarez after he appeared to bite an Italian player during a World Cup match last night.
The next and what would be the final incident happened in the 2014 World Cup. During a high-octane group stage clash between Uruguay and Italy to decide who was going to progress to the round of 16, the camera picked up Luis Suarez and Italian defender Giorgio Chiellini's clash, which caused both men to go to ground. The referee, however, once again did not see what seemed to be Luis Suarez having a head-to-shoulder collision with the Juventus player, but upon several replays, many watching at home could already see that he did it once again.
Suarez saying that it was an accident, he ran into Chiellini's shoulder.
It's just the two of us, he bumped into me, and that's how my eye got like this.
Chiellini saying it was a deliberate bite.
I'd love to see if they have the courage to use video evidence against him. The referee saw the bite mark too, but he did nothing about it.
So it really is up to FIFA now to make the next move.
FIFA, upon reviewing the footage, agreed that he was indeed guilty and proceeded to roll out a whopping 4-month ban on the Uruguayan from any football-related activities.
The player Luis Suarez is banned from taking part in any kind of football-related activity, administrative, sport or any other, for a period of 4 months.
The Liverpool player will not be able to play or train for his club or country for 4 months after FIFA's disciplinary committee handed him down the hefty sanction, which will be appealed against and has provoked dismay from Uruguay and a guarded response from Anfield. The biting incident, the third in which Suarez has been involved in his career, has also led FIFA's disciplinary committee to prevent the player from entering any football stadium during the ban. Suarez also has been banned for 9 competitive international matches, beginning with Uruguay's last 16 game with Colombia on Saturday, and fined £66,000. However, FIFA clarified that Suarez' ban from all administrative tasks related to football did not block any possible sale from Liverpool during the period. The length of the ban did spawn quite a bit of controversy, with Giorgio Chiellini deeming it excessive. However, many people were of the belief that the length of the ban was this high because he wasn't a first-time offender and he also has a reputation of being a troublemaker. This, however, from the above statement did not deter any possible move from Anfield, and as fate would have it, later that summer he landed at Barcelona. Over there, he would strike up a legendary 3-way partnership with Neymar and Messi, winning multiple La Ligas and Copa del Rey's as well as the Champions League during this period. Since that Chiellini incident at the World Cup till date, Suarez hasn't bitten anyone. So what happened? Firstly, why exactly was he even biting people in the first place? Multiple specialists claim to know what the reason is, but I think it's fair to first know how Suarez felt about his tendencies to bite. In his autobiography, Crossing the Line, My Story, Suarez details everything going on in his head during those periods. The adrenaline level in a game can be very high. The pulse is racing and sometimes the brain doesn't keep up. Adam Naylor, a Boston University sports psychologist, told New York Magazine that when the ball is in play, emotions drive athletes' behavior much more than rational thoughts. Intense emotions can lead to incredible performances, but they can also lead to total boneheadedness. Frustration in particular is known to lead to aggression. Naylor added that frustration reflects a failure to suppress one's human impulses. Ironically, he said, the more we try to control our impulses under stress, the tougher it gets. So my initial thought is something this odd actually could be a result of his increased efforts at emotional control. Here's Suarez's explanation for how the 2013 Ivanovic and the 2014 Chiellini incident happened. With Ivanovic in 2013, we had to beat Chelsea still to have any chance of making it into the Champions League. I was having a terrible game. I gave away a stupid penalty with a handball and I could feel everything slipping through our fingers. I could feel myself getting wound up. Moments before the Chiellini bite, I had a great chance to put us 1-0 up. If I had scored that goal, if Buffon hadn't made the save, then I wouldn't have done anything, but I missed the chance. The fear of failure clouds everything for me, even the blatantly obvious fact that I have at least 20,000 pair of eyes on me. It is not as if I am not going to be seen. Logic doesn't come into it. From his statements here, we can see that Suarez feels a certain responsibility towards helping his team succeed. For those 90 minutes on the pitch, life is irritating. I get irritated when a defender pushes up against me from behind. I get irritated when I miss chances. If my first few touches are off, then I think to myself, what's wrong with you today? This attitude has been the major reason for the success he has received in his career. Not the fastest or strongest player on the pitch, Suarez has mostly garnered praises from everyone for his hunger, drive and determination, and it's these sets of traits that has made him at one point the best player in the Premier League.
The best striker in the world, it has to be Luis Suarez.
Polarizes opinions. I think if he's with you, he's a star. I think to work with him, he'd be as good as it gets because I think he'd be bang at it every day in training. If you were playing against him, it would frustrate the life out of you.
He was the kind of player to put winning above everything, and when the stakes are high, he was always dead set on getting what he wanted.
I'm always happy when I see him play. He is amazing. I think he's a very nice boy. He does everything to win. But when the situation is like this, and you are losing, and comes the nature of the player, the wild nature of the player.
When the heart has stopped racing after the game, it's easy to look back and say, how could you be so stupid? There was 20 minutes left, but out on the pitch with the adrenaline pumping and the tension mounting, you're not even really aware of how long is left. You don't know anything. All I could think was, I didn't score, we're out of the World Cup. There are some players who in my position would have said, well, we're out, but I scored 2 great goals against England. I'm the star. I could have asked to be taken off. My knee is hurting again. I scored 2 in the last game. I did my best, but I wanted more. When you hear people talk about Suarez, you often hear them describe him as a player with predatory goal-scoring instinct, a player with a warrior's mentality that will do anything to win. While these attributes are often viewed positively as long as it's used in a way that aligns with the rules of the game, they're often driven by very high levels of emotions, and something we all know about emotions, it is that under the right conditions, there is every tendency that they will eventually get out of control, and when they do, they don't often manifest themselves in the prettiest of ways. Dr. Ian Robertson, neuropsychologist, explains using a phenomenon he refers to as the internal robot. He wrote, anyone who watched Suarez seize the moment to score when England's Steven Gerrard headed a long goal kick back towards his own goal was amazed by the speed of light response of Suarez to an unprecedented, nay, event. Here was near instantaneous judging of an unfamiliar situation and the execution of a brilliant complex set of bodily response to it. Here was sort of genius at work. To engage in this sort of cognition at lightning speed, you must rely on parts of the brain which functions far too fast to be consciously monitored. This includes regions called the cerebellum and the striatum, where highly complex mental operations can be partially automated and run off at high speed. To unleash his genius, in other words, Suarez has to enter a mental zone of relative mindlessness. Suarez himself claims that the problem is that this switching off also happens when I do something brilliant on the pitch, and of course I don't want to lose that. I've scored goals and later struggle to understand how exactly I managed to score them. There is something about the way I play that is unconscious. For better or worse, I want to release the tension and the pressure, but I don't want to lose the spontaneity in my game, much less the intensity of my style of play. In order to understand how this is even possible, we have to first look at the science. You see, according to a study from the Journal of Sports Science, an elite footballer performs 150 to 250 intense actions during a game. For every one of those actions, there is a mass of information to digest: visual cues, instructions from the coach, calculating forces and angles, spatial awareness of a wide area, all of which a player has to process in real time to make a quick, potentially game-changing decision. On top of that, they have to, in normal circumstances, cope with the emotion teeming from the stands. If you're a striker, what is your awareness of the person on the ball? You're asking yourself, has he got time? Is he got to cross it? What's his body language? Once you have ascertained what they're going to do, what's your movement? How will you lose the defender? When you see the cross coming in, it's about your timing. Do you go slow or do you go quick? And then, finally, execution. How are you going to finish? What part of the foot do you kick it with? Are you going to bring it down? Can you head it? It's enough to scramble your brain, which is why it requires a high-functioning mind to decode it. Those that can, scan. This is fundamental to on-pitch awareness. Rather than lose valuable seconds assessing their options once they're in possession, smart players keep looking over their shoulders as they take mental pictures of their teammates, opponents, and the boundaries of the pitch in relation to themselves. Scanning is not conscious. It's a primary process. Every millisecond, players are scanning approximately 9 bits of essential information. It's called multiple object tracking, and they're taking snapshots for the brain to simulate what might happen. Now back to Dr. Robertson, who continues by saying, the upside of inhabiting this zone is that you can let the robots do their work, but the downside is that among them are 1 or 2 little devil robots, negative habits which can only be let free when the conscious mind is turned on. And one of those, unfortunately for Suarez and Chiellini, is the troubling little habit of biting.
Athletes all have their own optimal performance zones, and I think Suarez's one is definitely one while he's on the pitch of being slightly aggressive, and I think when you combine that with a little bit of frustration, he needs an outlet, and perhaps his outlets are slightly inappropriate, to put it mildly.
And in respect to emotions, the one thing is that players require much more than a high-speed processor to make smart choices on the pitch. Emotions, which are the very impulses players are often advised to suppress, are in reality instrumental in their decision-making. Self-control is preached across the game, and therefore succumbing to an outburst is seen as a sign of weakness, which in the case of Suarez we have seen many times. There's logic behind this ethos, yet the best players don't just control their emotions, they channel them. This concurs with Dr. Naylor's statements when he claimed that something this odd actually could be as a result of his increased efforts at emotional control. Suarez often channels them to football, hence the way he plays. However, Luis Suarez, just like many other players, even the ones who don't have a reputation of being violent, have that one moment that makes them snap. The difference in reaction is really how they snap or in what way they choose to express it. Some slap, some punch, some even spit, but very rarely do you come across those who bite. According to Dr. Naylor, it is easier to remember that something like punching is unacceptable, but without a proper, well-developed way to manage stress, some sort of odd emotional release is going to occur. There's also the possibility that he used to utilize biting as a means of exercising aggression while he was younger, and just never really grew out of it. It could be a childhood coping mechanism. This habitual response of biting when you're in a stressful situation that he has carried into adulthood. This was not a very good look on the Uruguayan's reputation, as it led to fans calling him an overgrown baby, a cannibal, and even a vampire.
This player appeared to bite another player during the second half of this match, and this, by the way, is not the first time this player is accused of doing something like this.
If you want a nickname, you don't want the nickname the Cannibal. And this is this player's nickname because this is the third alleged incident of this.
Biting is a very odd and unusual way of lashing out in comparison to a slap or even a punch, hence why it got relatively more attention than usual. But Suarez at the time didn't seem to think that it should have. I know biting appalls a lot of people, but it's relatively harmless, or at least it was in the incidents I was involved in. When Ivanovic rolled up his sleeves to show the referee the mark at Anfield, there was virtually nothing there. None of the bites had been like Mike Tyson on Evander Holyfield's ear, but none of this makes it right. There was a moment in a game against Chile in 2013 when a player grabbed me between the legs and I reacted by punching him. I didn't get banned for that. That's considered a normal, acceptable response. When I called Ivanovic after the 2013 incident, he told me that the police had come to see him and asked if he wanted to press charges, and thankfully he said no. I'm grateful to him because the circus could have gone on for a lot longer. Punch someone and it's forgotten. There is no circus. FIFA claimed that the reason for his long 4-month ban was because the player didn't show any sign of remorse for what he did. At no time did the player show any kind of remorse or admit to any violation of FIFA rules, and therefore show no awareness of having committed any infraction. At the peak of these incidents, which was the Chiellini bite, Suarez didn't seem to think he bit the Italian, and as confirmed by his wife Sofia, the striker told her that he didn't do it. He told me he hadn't done it. That is what he had in his head, and even I began to believe it. But the television and the radio spoke only about the bite, and after 10 days of us being alone, he told me the truth. On the day of the game, I phoned him and asked him what he had done. He responded with, "What?" The same had happened in England, and I insisted again. He replied, "I haven't done anything. Are you not happy because Uruguay qualified?" I was happy they went through, but was also sad because I knew what was coming. I didn't know exactly what would happen, but I knew it wouldn't be good. Things happen and you pay the price. His wife here confirms that after the Chiellini incidents, Suarez denied it all. But what could be the reason for denying something he knew the entire world witnessed? Suarez adopted a psychological defense mechanism known as denial, a defense mechanism which functions as a way of protecting oneself from anxiety. Denying it means he was aware of the gravity of what he had just done. He just doesn't want to accept it, something which he himself confirmed, by the way. I didn't ask for immediate forgiveness as I didn't want to believe what had happened. It took a few days because I didn't want to believe the reality. I was in Uruguay, having gone there after the World Cup, and people were coming up to my door.
Que uno en ese momento era difícil de aceptarlo, y bueno, después uno es consciente de que lo mejor que tiene que hacer uno es cuando se equivoca es pedir perdón, y así fue. Tampoco.
Denial doesn't just help one in refusing to acknowledge the problem, it also helps in minimizing the potential consequences that might result. Whether it's the consequences of having to live with the fact that he was indeed capable of such an act, or the embarrassment he would feel on how people viewed him afterwards, or both, he's the only one who truly knows.
Sinceramente no soy, es como lo digo, lo dije siempre, no soy nada que ver el Luis que entra dentro de la cancha que el que es afuera. A la hora de estar fuera de la cancha soy muy tranquilo, soy un padre de familia, soy un marido, y bueno, a la hora de entrar a la cancha hay a veces que uno tiene actos de cuales no son adecuados, pero tampoco me veo como lo ve mucha gente, ¿no?
An attempt in minimizing the consequences through the use of denial could indicate a deep-rooted fear in some sort of consequence. Let's not forget that he was at serious risk of being banned for 2 years or even permanently. And even after FIFA banned him for 4 months, he just couldn't take it. I appreciated the support but wanted to be supporting my teammates on the pitch. I'd given everything for 4 years to be here, and through my own fault, making one mistake, all that was forgotten. How I was treated was a bit cruel. I was treated like a criminal, and it hurts. He was never proud of what he did and was so embarrassed to the point that he refused to look inward.
My own feeling is that he needs some help. He needs, let's say, medical help, psychiatric help. I think this is a human being first of all, and he has got a problem that needs dealing with. forget about the football side of things at the moment. This fella needs looking after.
Liverpool sent a sports psychologist to see me in Barcelona after the Ivanovic incident, and we spent 2 hours talking about what was going through my head at the time. He said I could see him again, but I resisted. Part of it was the concern that this treatment would make me too calm on the pitch. What if the next time the ball goes past me, I just let it go instead of chasing it? I'm the player who will kill himself just to prevent a throw-in the 90th minute. To a certain extent, it was also normal that a striker is irritable and on the edge. When everything finally hit him, he decided to seek psychological help. I didn't want to talk to anyone after the Chiellini bite, though back in Montevideo, with the shutters down, depressed and not wanting to digest what had really happened, I was watching the press conference on the television when Tavares announced that in support of me, he was resigning his post on the FIFA Strategic Committee. Ever since the Italy game, I had felt depressed. I was in shock, numbed. The sadness overwhelmed me. I watched him and the tears started rolling down my face. I couldn't believe what he was doing for me. To see how much he loved me, to see what was happening, what the consequences of what I had done were, was soul destroying. Sophie and I went away to the countryside to talk about everything, and I finally began to accept what I needed to do. She was annoyed with herself for not being firmer with me before. She said to me, "So now, are you going to listen to me?" This time, it felt like there were no alternatives and I took the initiative. Suarez finally decided to seek help through therapy, and well, the rest is history. With the help of therapy, Suarez finally conquered his urges. It's been 9 years since he last did it, and even though he's still up to some of his usual shenanigans here and there, he's managed to keep the ugly biting incident in his past locked far away to the point of no return.